lethality buffs are being pulled from patch 12.11 as well as some other changes, which was going to go live later today, as well as having the patch notes come out later today. 12:15 a.m. would have been 10 p.m. in California, so this was posted pretty much last minute at the end of the day before the patch notes were coming out. So they posted that they're not happening, as well as some thoughts on why they aren't happening and why they wanted to do them. So I was originally just going to go over this in my patch note video, but because I posted a video saying that they shouldn't do these changes, I figured I'd respond in its own video, A, so people are more aware that these changes aren't happening, and B, so I can respond to a lot of these things that he said. I prepared a bunch of things at the top that you can see to try to talk about some of these points he's making. So we're going to go over this right now. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to leave a comment on your thoughts if you agree or disagree both with me or with Riot on this matter. So changes to lethality items, except Umbro, Rocket Belt, Lethal Tempo have been removed from patch 12.11. Lethality is not getting buffed, Rocket Belt is not getting buffed, Lethal Tempo is not getting nerfed. I'm not really sure what Lethal Tempo had to do with these, considering this was sustained damage and these were two burst items, but okay. We're going to take some time to evaluate magnitude and direction of these changes post 12.11. Some notes on why we wanted to change assassin items and some of their moves. I actually do agree with this. I believe 80 assassins have been overpowered for so long that you should take some time to evaluate the magnitude and direction of these changes. I believe, and this is my opinion, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, I believe 80 assassins were overpowered for so long that 80 assassin players have just been boosted up to a rank that they shouldn't be at. In addition to that, they've gotten so used to spending so many of their abilities either getting into range just to land one ability to kill people from full, or missing half their abilities, that basically they kind of need to get good at the game again. Too often we would see players like Talon use their ultimate, run over a bunch of cliffs, not even hit their ultimate, just use it as a movement speed buff, leap over some things, miss everything, and then just sort of kill people, right? Or we'd see Kiana use all her shit and just like, oh, what? She just land like Q ult and people would die from full. Now they can't do that, and well, they're not doing as well. But the thing is, they were very, very, very overpowered, and so they need to derank a little bit, which will affect their win rates. But I believe that their win rates, and we've been seeing this actually, we have been seeing that their win rates are coming back up. They're normalizing. They're not even below 50% on average. Their win rates are coming back up, and they are doing better. I believe next patch, their win rates might actually normalize back to where they used to be. So yes, they should take some time to evaluate magnitude and direction of these changes. Assassins, I had to read this tweet a few times. I did read this before I did this, so I'll explain this with you. Assassins should kill you when about even if they land their abilities. Now, this sign means about and even. So what he's saying here is assassins are about equal in feed and farm and items, right? If they have in their inventory about the equal items that you have, they should kill you when they land their abilities. This is nothing crazy to say, but some people don't believe assassins should, like, oh, if an 80 carry is an 80 carry, then they shouldn't die because they're, I don't know, but I've heard this line of thought a lot. Assassins should kill you when about even if they land their abilities. This is not rocket science. Number of abilities depends on kit counterplay and how ahead they are. Once again, not rocket science. If they're very fed, then yes, if Kiana is like 4 items to your 1 or 2, then yes, she can probably just Q ult and kill you. But if she's not that far ahead, then yes, she should probably need to land all her abilities in order to kill you. Assassins need to have kill threat to fill a vital role in the game. Once again, not rocket science. Sometimes even when they're behind. Yes, assassins do need to be able to kill you when they're behind. Otherwise, they're only good if they're snowballing, which means they need to be overpowered on the off chance that they don't get ahead. None of what he said here is crazy, and I think we can all agree with all of that. On patch 12.10, they sometimes build fighter items. Yes, that's true, but I believe this is a little bit misleading because he's saying on patch 12.10 they sometimes build fighter items. They've been building sometimes fighter items forever, for 10 years. Yes, fighter items have AD, assassin items have AD, AD carry items have AD. These classes swap in their items with each other all the time. This would be like saying on patch 12.10 sometimes bruisers build tank items. Oh, but yes, technically on patch 12.10 they sometimes do build fighter items, and they've been doing that for 10-12 years now. So I believe that's a little bit of a misleading statement. When lethality items have less or equal damage than fighter, assassins building fighter breaks their fantasy strength and weakness profiles. So the problem I have here is lethality items do not have equal or less damage than fighter items. Just to bust out Kiana here, I'm just going to bust out Kiana here. Gore Drinker has 55 damage. The AD Assassin items have 60 damage, 18 lethality. 55 damage, 18 lethality. So every single assassin item does more damage than every single fighter item. I think basically across the board. Ghostblade, 55 damage, 18 lethality. Death Stance, 55 damage, no lethality. Do you get the problem here? Fighter items do not do equal damage, and assassin items definitely do not do less damage than fighter items. It gets particularly worse when you realize, just as an example, Ghostblade's 3,000 gold. The stance is 3,300 gold. So with that 300 extra gold, you can build a longsword. So effectively, in your inventory, Ghostblade is 65 damage to Death Stance 55 damage. In addition to that, I'm not sure, but yes, actually, assassin mythics are also 200 less gold than fighter mythics. Gore Drinker is 3,300 gold. Probably's Claw is 3,100 gold. They could raise the price on this item by 200, match a fighter item, and then give it 5 more damage. And that would be fine. If you really wanted to raise lethality, you could raise the cost of these items up to normal items. I feel it's extremely misleading here to say when lethality items have equal less damage than fighter, because that's never been true. It's not true right now, and particularly when you compare the gold cost of the items, fighter items have less damage. Assassin's building fighter breaks their fantasy and strength weakness profiles. Yes, in a hypothetical world where this was true, but the problem here, Riot, is this is a hypothetical world. This isn't true. What you're saying here is basically, if fighter items magically dealt more damage than lethality items, assassins could build fighter items, and that would remove their weakness of being squishy. Yes, actually, I do agree. If that hypothetical world did exist, this would be true, but it doesn't. In Elite, 25% of mythic purchases on core assassins are fighter items, and 20% legendary. Nerfing Gore Drinker, Cleaver, Stridebreaker post 12.11 hurts fighters more. So I'm honestly not sure what this meant. I've read this so many times and I don't understand it. He's basically saying, sometimes at the higher ranks, assassins build fighter items and legendaries, which, yeah, even to this day, you don't need to build full 100% lethality in order to kill people. You can slot in a less damaging item that gives you more survivability. In addition to that, Riot, you were the ones, not me. I didn't do this, okay? So Riot can't complain about this because I didn't come in. None of us, the player base, came in and forced them to change death stance from health scaling to damage scaling. In fact, if you go back and you watch any of my videos, you would know I 100% I said, wow, if you change death stance to scale on damage instead of health, it will be built by assassins. And then it was built by assassins. And now it's being chain nerfed because it's being built by assassins. This should have surprised nobody. This is an if-then statement. If death stance scales on damage, then assassins will build it. Ta-da! But second off, we are seeing that, yes, here's Prowlers into Ghostblade, into Sereldas, into potentially a Death Stance. Oh, but let's look at this statement here for a second, okay? In Elite, 25% of mythic purchases on core assassins are fighter items. Okay, so what is a core assassin? I don't really know, but if we look at Kiana and Masters Plus, Elite is actually Grandmasters Plus, but the data for that is super small, so I'm gonna look at Masters Plus because particularly they don't go to Grandmaster Plus. We can see here that fighter items are being built 1.55% of the time. On Talon, Gore Drinker is seeing 23% pick rate. Oh, but here's the problem. That's because the majority of them are going Prowlers, which is bad on Talon. That makes no sense. Talon has way too much mobility to need to go Prowlers. Now, I do agree the lethality is actually good, but the thing is, Talon, Eclipse way outperforms any of these other items, and it's been true for a long time. Talon mains don't have like the database. I don't think there's any Talon main database or video YouTuber, streamer, anyone that tells them what to do. Like some other classes have stuff like that so they can go learn how to play their classes. Eclipse has been the best Talon mythic for a while. So yes, Gore Drinker is better than Prowlers, but also Eclipse is better than Prowlers. What we're seeing here isn't, oh my god, Gore Drinker is the best Talon item. We're seeing Gore Drinker is outperforming Prowlers, yes, but also Eclipse is outperforming both of them. So here's the second problem. When they're saying 25% of mythic purchases on core assassins or fighter items, that depends on the assassin. In addition to all what I just said, the problem is that Talon has really good sustained damage. Talon, so long as he gets enough damage to kill you, he actually, due to the assassin update they did a while ago, and remember they did do this wacky janky assassin update like 6 years ago or something, Talon got really good sustained damage. So if Talon can get away with building fighter and using his sustained damage to kill people, then he can do that, because then that removes his weakness of being squishy. So we do see Talon does build enough damage. He builds Ghostblade, he builds his Serylda's Grudge, he sometimes builds the Guardian Angel, he has sometimes even the Gore Drinker, the Distance, right? So Talon does try to build as tanky as he can, but still enough to kill people. But that's an issue with Talon's design of having bizarrely high sustained damage. Okay? In addition, this 20% of items are legendary. Remember guys, you have 4 legendary items you can build in a game. 1 mythic, 1 boot, 4 legendary items. By saying 20% of legendary items are fighter items, you're saying on average they build 1 or less fighter item legendary per game. Now remember, legendaries are the non-mythic, okay? So by saying they build 1 or less fighter legendary a game, that seems about right to me. Right? Like, does that surprise anybody when you actually word it differently? They build 1 or less fighter item a game. Yeah, okay, yeah, I can believe that. They're building Distance, sometimes Maw, sometimes Guardian Angel, depending on the situation. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that actually seems fair. If I was an assassin and I was fighting a mage, I would build Maw, right? Does that surprise anybody? If I was playing an assassin and I was trying to dive and kill 80 carries, I would build a Guardian Angel or a Distance. Yeah, okay, I agree. Why does that surprise anybody? Why does that surprise Riot? Win rate for assassins are tricky. Technically, champions are balanced between 49 to 53% win rate, with a lot of nuance for skill bracket, frustration, pro, etc. Okay, that's bullshit. We all know, right? We all know. Champions are balanced between 47 and 53%. Champions like Israel are not balanced at 49%. Champions like Gameplank are not balanced at 49%. I understand that you as a company have changed your definition of balanced, but Gameplank has now been extremely overpowered for a very long time because you randomly decided, is Gameplank balanced at 48%? No, it's now 49% with a high pick rate. No, he's not balanced like that, and I think everybody agrees with that. There's a massive range. If a champion at 49% is buffed 3%, it's a massive buff, but they're still balanced afterwards. Well, no, and this is where I think Riot is introducing their bias way too much. They believe what is and is not balanced for a champion. Gwen is clearly not balanced at 51%. Gwen is clearly balanced at 47%, actually, Riot. So can Gwen be balanced at her current 51% win rate? No. She's extraordinarily overpowered. She's the #1 pick by nearly 40% more than the #2 pick in top lane. She's monstrously overpowered, and she's bullying a lot of champions out of the lane who can't deal with her, running at them, pressing R every 2 minutes. In fact, it's actually less than 2 minutes now. The problem here, also, Riot, if champions were balanced on average 49 to 53% win rate, how can that mathematically work out? If champions on average are balanced at around 51% win rate, do you realize how that mathematically can't happen? If every champion had 51% win rate, how could that work, Riot? That literally can't work, because see, the issue here is that you have to lose. You can't only have winners. You can't win on average more than 50% of your games, because where are those games coming from? Someone has to lose those games that you're winning. What champions do you think are allowed to sit on high 51 to 53% and low 49 to 51% sides of balance? Interested in your thoughts. Here, Riot, once again, you can't do that. You mathematically, Riot, do you understand how this works? People are losing the games that these champions are winning, Riot. You literally, Riot, I assure you, mathematically, you can't do this. This doesn't work out. What you were suggesting and saying right now can't work. I assure you. Okay? I think Assassins beyond Kiana, Rengar, and Elite are meant to be up there sometimes. Anyway, some food for thought. Thanks for playing with us. I think Assassins beyond Kiana, Rengar, and Elite are meant to be up there sometimes. Before, I guess we've read all this, but I prepared a bunch of lists here for things that Riot's complaining about, particularly here. Nerfing Gore, Cleaver, Stride, Post 12.11 hurts fighters more than Assassins? Well, okay, I want to go through this. So with Kiana, we can clearly see here, let me zoom, give this a zoom sidoonie. We can clearly see overall Kiana is not really building fighter items. This is Kiana, Masters Plus. She's not really building fighter items. We can see she's building a healthy core amount of lethality, and in addition to that, we can see Kiana's at a 52% win rate. So Kiana's doing absolutely fine building the lethality items that they wanted to buff. They're complaining that she's building fighter items. Guys, just to be clear, last item slotting in a Death Dance or a Guardian Angel means that on average she's building 20% or less fighter items. Do you see how that's extremely skewed and relying on the fact that you didn't put critical thought into it? You never thought 20% meant one, just a single one, which yes, feels about right. I have Talon right here. No, Talon is sitting at a 51.69% win rate. Nice. Once again, we can see a healthy assassin item set, even with a champion who does more sustained damage and very easily could fit in more assassin items. I do agree overall Serpent's Fang is pretty weak right now. That's due to the fact that it's overpowered as a concept and really stupid. And when it was good, then it was built on everyone all the time and shield champions suffered. But once again, we can see, yes, on average he builds sometimes Gore Drinker, and often he will slot in a Black Cleaver, a Death Dance, a Guardian Angel. That's fine, that's just how talent is. We can see Zed is doing a very high pick rate. But he's got a 49.4% pick rate, okay, or sorry, win rate. We can see Zed, once again, no bruiser mythics, basically full lethality items across the board. I don't know, are they considering Sorelda's Grudge to be in a fighter mythic? Hopefully, or sorry, legendary? Hopefully not. We can see, once again, Zed's doing just fine, and he's building across the board lethality. Jace, shocking, I know, but actually Jace's win rate is higher than last patch at 48%. But we can see Jace, Masters Plus, literally only builds Eclipse Rush into full lethality. I don't know if they're considering Manamune to be a fighter item or not. I hope they're not. But then we can see last item slots on a Guardian Angel. That would be the 20%, just so everyone is aware of this. I'm going to go through all these champions because I really want to show what Riot is saying, because it's extremely, I'm not going to say manipulative, but it's extremely misleading what they're saying here. They're saying, oh man, assassins are building so many fighter items. We might have to nerf Gore Drinker and Cleaver and Stridebreaker. Oh no, we might have to. But I want you all to look with your eyes, be educated as to how misleading what they're saying is, okay? We have Rengar. Let's look at Rengar, 54% win rate. He's not doing bad at all, quite overpowered. Now, Rengar is, of course, one of the biggest fighter style assassins. He's doing really good with fighter items because, well, let's be blunt here, he is a fighter who started to build lethality items because they were better than fighter items. And then they balanced him as a assassin. But the thing is, fundamentally, from the very beginning, from his core rework, from his core release, he has been a fighter. He's just a fighter who's been building lethality items because historically they've just fit him more and been better. The lethality items have been better than fighter items. So we can see, yes, he's building Divine Sunderer, but right below Divine Sunderer, with a noticeably higher win rate, is Ghostblade. Then after that, we can see Duskblade is his number 1. So Ghostblade into Duskblade or Ghostblade into Essence Reaver. We can see here that crit, because of the changes to Rengar, crit is doing quite good. We can see Lord Dominik's, that's his armor pen, that's more crit. We can see really, actually, when you really break it down, that Rengar is actually slotting mostly into a crit lethality build, sometimes going Divine Sunder when he needs to. We're not seeing an unhealthy champion here. We're not seeing assassins are building all these fighter items. We're seeing, yes, once, maybe he is going Death Dance, maybe he is going Divine Sunderer as 1 item per game. This isn't unhealthy. This is just Riot being misleading with fighters are building all these, or sorry, assassins are building all these fighter items. Okay, let's go to Khazix. Now I want to look at Khazix. Khazix is 50% win rate, Masters Plus again, not doing bad at all. You might notice not a single one of these champions have been doing bad. Really pulling up the question of why were they thinking of buffing them? So we can see Khazix doing quite well with his Eclipse Rush. Actually, in a funny story, Khazix would be doing a lot better if he dropped this Gore Drinker. If he stopped building Gore Drinker, his win rate would actually go up considerably. Khazix would potentially be 51-52% win rate if he just stopped trying to build fighter items. Eclipse Khazix is his best item. It's been his best for quite some time. He should just only be building Eclipse 99% of the time unless he's snowballing with a Duskblade. And even then, we can see it just doesn't do the same punch. From there, Ghostblade, Cyrilda's Guardian Angel, typical stuff. Sometimes a Distance, sometimes a Maw. I mean, this is basically what I'm saying. Yes, once per game is a 1 slot. If he's against too many mages, he builds Maw. If he's against a lot of physical damage, he builds Distance or Guardian Angel. This, right, just be clear, this is normal. This is expected behavior. This is exactly what everyone thinks when they think Khazix, when they think assassins. Oh yeah, they'll slot in 1 Distance, they'll slot in 1 Guardian Angel. Like, I get it. Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. Would that not make sense to you? If I'm playing, like, okay, let me put it this way. If you said that on average 80 carries are building 20% fighter legendaries, you'd be like, ah. Until you stop to think about it and you're like, oh, that's just slotting in a Guardian Angel at the end. That's it. If you said 80 carries were building 20% fighter legendaries, you'd technically be true. The best kind of true, technically, because they're slotting in a last item Guardian Angel. That's extremely goddamn misleading though, don't you think, Riot? Now let's go to Nocturne. Now Nocturne is, of course, he's actually a fighter. Now the reason I have mentioned Nocturne is because I figured maybe this is who they're talking about. But let's be honest, Nocturne is a fighter. He's been balanced as a fighter. He ults in, presses Q, and he auto-attacks people to death. He literally can't fear for 2 seconds, so he's definitely not bursting people down. He's just a burst-oriented fighter. That's how he's been balanced from the very beginning. Could he build lethality? Yes, technically, but do you notice how none of his damage is based on his actual abilities? His E is magic damage, his ult barely does damage, his Q is like a 0.8 AD ratio, his W doesn't do any damage, his passive has a 1.2 AD ratio, but wait, it's also an auto attack, so actually it only has a 0.2 AD ratio. So what does he do? Well, he goes Stridebreaker, and that should be fairly obvious, right? Look, when you have a champion who has a limited time to deal damage, in this case Nocturne at most has about 2 seconds to deal damage before his E. Now his E will fear in 2 seconds, but he needs to live for those 2 seconds. Then after those 2 seconds he only has 2 seconds more to deal damage. After that they're not feared, he's not really that tanky, so realistically what would be the best build for him? Stridebreaker, and it's been true forever. So if you're, I'm not sure if this is what Riot is considering, but if you're including Nocturne as an assassin, and you're saying, oh, Nocturne's building Distance and Maw and Guardian Angel and Kempung Chainsword, and actually Riot, when you look at it that way, he's only building fighter items. So clearly, I believe we would have to agree that Nocturne is currently a fighter, right? Like, we all agree on that? He's not really an assassin. Just because sometimes he goes Axiom Arc doesn't really make him an assassin. He's just a fighter with a global gap closer. Okay? Okay. Shaco. Now let's look at Shaco. Once again, we have the same thing I was just talking about with Nocturne. Yes, his lethality builds are going down. Yes, his AP builds are going down. But in return, what are we seeing? He's building fighter. Stridebreaker, Blade of the Rune King, Guardian Angel, Wit's End. Sometimes he goes Lord Dominic's, which is fair. Sometimes he's going crit items, which is fair. We are seeing a crit build kind of appear here, where he's doing like Essence Reaver, Collector, Infinity Edge, sometimes a Lord Dominic's. Like, we're seeing that, right? But overall, what is he building? He's building crit and fighter items, which again, in my opinion, is actually about right. Historically speaking, Shaco has most of the time actually built fighter items and crit items. That's actually pretty much been true for the majority of his existence. He's rarely ever gone lethality, and let's be fair here, Shaco's E doesn't deal physical damage. His knife throw, that doesn't deal physical damage to my knowledge. His Jack-in-the-Boxes don't deal physical damage. So realistically, on hit builds, using the fact that his ultimate summons a clone who procs on hit effects, that seems to do the best. His clone also auto attacks, which crit scales really well with auto attacks. His passive also crits, which scales good with auto attacks. Do you see the point here, right? If you're considering Shaco to be an assassin who's building fighter items, then you'd also have to include him as an assassin who's building AD carry items, which I believe would be a bit disingenuous to say that he is a hardcore assassin who's ditching lethality. No, he's building as he should. If you want Shaco to go back to building lethality, or to build lethality at all, then what you need to do is change his damage to physical to actually make it meaningful for him to build lethality. Lethality literally does nothing for anything, actually. Basically nothing other than his pure auto attack damage. Wukong. Now, I know Wukong has to be a fighter, but I figured I'd mention him. He's a fighter, right? We can all agree Wukong is a fighter. Okay, great. Let's just skip past it. Now let's go to Pantheon. Now, Pantheon. Is Pantheon an assassin? Is he a fighter? Well, I think we can agree Pantheon is a fighter. I mean, Pantheon, let's be honest, he's got only 976 picks, so he's not exactly doing good. Now, these win rates are useless because his stats are so low, but we can kind of see here that at least when we're looking at pick rate, that yeah, he's building like Eclipse into fighter items for the most part, but he is a fighter, right? So we can agree he is a fighter. And I listed every champion I could think of to try to prove this point. I went through every single champion. I went through all their items. This took me about an hour, okay? Well, actually it didn't. I don't know how long it took me. I kind of woke up and then I said it was it. So this statement here is extraordinarily misleading, and in my opinion leads to why they thought lethality needed to be buffed. Did you guys think lethality needed to be buffed because Nocturne and Shaco weren't building it? Did you think lethality needed to be buffed because we saw that Khazix was building a Guardian Angel? Because Khazix was incorrectly building a Gore Drinker? Here's the thing, Riot. I understand that you're saying they're building them, but we're right after patch 12.10. A lot of people are playing very inappropriately. And that's fine. It's fine for Khazix players to shit the bed and build Gore Drinker a lot. We've seen 1,300 picks in Gore Drinker. That's fine. They can shit the bed and they can build this item and do terribly. That's fine. I'm not trying to attack them. I'm not saying they are bad. I'm saying that yes, actually, that's fine. Next patch, they'll build it less. That is the process of natural selection. The Khazix players who are continuing to build Gore Drinker will D-rank and do worse. And eventually, they'll lose enough that they'll go, am I doing something wrong? And they'll go check the stats out and be like, oh, I am doing something wrong. And then Khazix will build more lethality, and then his win rate will raise up, and then he'll be back to your supposed 51 to 53% balanced win rate, which, no, that's not balanced. Right, some champions have to lose. You can't only have winners. You can't make a game where 10 people enter, 5 people lose, and then somehow 10 people win. Do you understand my point? Okay, so that's gonna be this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. This was a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but I really wanted to respond to all of this and make my points because I think some of it was actually extremely misleading. And yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed this. Give me your thoughts. Do you agree with anything I said? Do you disagree with anything I said? I hope I made a strong argument and case here for what I'm arguing, which is don't buff lethality items. It's doing fine. Okay? Change champions to use lethality more. Don't change lethality. Lethality items are doing fine. We're actually seeing some champions like Jace doing better on this patch because they got tankier, but they can get into that late game super lethality build more often. Okay, I already get that. Thank you. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Special shout out to my Patreon supporters. For mere $3, you can join my Patreon. The link is in the description. You can join my Patreon, and that helps me immensely. A lot of my videos get DMCA'd lately, and I know I keep saying this, but it keeps happening, so I keep saying it. I can link you guys some stupidity that's getting DMCA'd, and it is it's getting pretty dumb. It's getting pretty dumb. But special shout out to all my YouTube members. You guys continue to support this channel and make it great. And thank you everybody who just watches and leaves comments. You guys help me out considerably, so thank you all, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.